This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
His baseball career was the basis for a major motion picture, The Rookie, Jim Morris, on this edition of Conversations. Welcome to Conversations. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you so very much for joining us. The Rookie, Jim Morris, joins us. Thank you, sir, for being here with us.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you.
In case folks don't know, your baseball career was turned into a movie starring Dennis Quaid. It was a Disney movie, big hit. Before we get into all the details of it, tell me, how accurate was the movie to your actual life?
The movie's about 80% accurate, and Dennis said by Hollywood standards, that doesn't happen. So I'm extremely happy with the product that Disney put out. It's heartfelt, and it's about kids, and it's about kids I coached. It's about family, and it's about dreams, something that everybody has, no matter how young or old you are.
My wife and I watched the movie over the weekend, and she made the comment, she goes, I don't believe there was a single cuss word in there or anything, off color. Did you have any influence in that?
Dennis said it was because of the way I lived my life that it didn't have any of that in there. But Disney was actually worried that it didn't have anything in it that people could go, oh yeah, now that draws me in. But when we screened it all over the country, people loved it and they left it alone, and I'm happy for that because there's no reason for any of that stuff in it.
What was Dennis Quaid like?
He's a great guy. We had a lot of fun. He likes to eat steak and play golf. Other than that, he's just a normal guy.
Good deal. Well, let's back up and tell me your story. As a child growing up, you were a baseball fanatic and dreamed of being in the big leagues. Take it from there.
I played baseball from the time I could pick a ball up, and basically what baseball was for me was a way to get away from my father. Anybody that's seen the movie knows that my dad and I didn't get along very well, and certainly baseball afforded me the opportunity to get away from him, and in between those white lines I could be that kid I wanted to be. And in doing that, it became very much a draw for me to play baseball all the time. From daylight until dark, I never wanted to go in the house. I stayed away from his wrath, but I became better and better at baseball, so I thought, I want to be a ball player. And at 5 years old, I want to be a major league ball player.
And there's some scenes in the movie where you're actually talking yourself through, you're in the World Series, and so is that real? Did you do that?
Oh, absolutely. And when we lived in Navy housing all over the country, there were a lot of times I'd get a tennis ball and go out and do that up against the side of the house, and it was not very thick, and my mom would come out and get on me. Then she'd go back in, I'd do it again, so it was all pretty fun.
Yeah, I used to do that too, but we didn't have the same results. You were, I guess, had to move to Texas. Your dad was transferred to Texas to a non-baseball area. What was that like for you?
That was a very tough move for me. I was at MacArthur High School in Hollywood, Florida, second freshman ever to make our varsity baseball team. University of Miami looking at me as a freshman, and I thought, this is my future. I'm going to be a ball player. And he moves me back to Texas where they don't even have high school baseball because football runs the roost. And our coach hated baseball, therefore we had no baseball team. And it was very hard for me because I'd wanted since I was 5 to be a ball player. And now here I was being told at 15, you're going to be a ball player, but it's going to be football. And so for 10 games a summer, I would get to play baseball, but it had nothing to do with school. Nobody came through town to watch baseball players. It was all football.
And you did play football, though.
I did play football. I was all-state in football, and I learned a lot of important things from this coach, even though he didn't like baseball, and he and I kind of butted heads on that. He taught me about teamwork and discipline. He taught us how to have character and carry ourselves with grace and dignity. And we weren't the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest team in the state of Texas, but we won a state championship because we were a team. And you can get a lot more done as a team than as an individual at any point in time. And I think that message has been lost over time with some of our kids. But being a part of a team is something bigger than yourself.
How much of being successful in sports is from the heart as opposed to the physical part of it?
You can have all the physical ability in the world, and I got, certainly through both sessions in the minor leagues and the major leagues, I got to see really, really talented people never make it. And you've got to have it upstairs and in your heart also to make the complete transition. Some of the most talented guys in the world never see a big league field. It's the guys with average ability, but more than average hearts and heads that get in the game.
Let me back up for a second. How were you able to, because you did start out in the minor leagues as 18 or 19-year-old, so how did you transition from high school where there was no baseball team to getting your start?
I went to Ranger Junior College out of high school. I had no good grades. I didn't study. I wanted to be a ball player. And when my football coach found out I was going to pursue baseball, he had all my football scholarships pulled. So I really had nowhere to go. He wanted me to be a football player. I went to Ranger Junior College. At that point in time, the person who meant more to me than anybody in my life, my grandfather, I found out had developed ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. The disease strikes the nervous system. Nerves can't fire, muscles can't move. And I watched my 6'3", 250-pound grandfather go from a cane to a walker to a wheelchair in 6 months as I got ready to graduate and move on with my life. So Ranger Junior College became a part of me. It was only 45 minutes from home. I could make the trip back every weekend, and my coach signed me to a scholarship, allowed me to play baseball, but come home during the weekends to see my grandfather.
What was it about your grandfather? What was that relationship about?
He taught me how to be a man. For 15 years, my dad taught me how to do everything in a negative connotation. Everything was, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, why do you even try? It was very much negative. My grandfather didn't care about athletics in any fashion whatsoever. He wanted me to be a good human being and taught me about character and taught me how to open doors for people and say yes sir and no sir, yes ma'am and no ma'am. And he taught me that if you ever want to be respected, you got to respect yourself first. If you don't respect yourself, nobody's ever going to respect you. He said you got to carry yourself and look people in the eye and mean what you say, and if you ever make a promise, you live up to it. He was the best person I've ever known. He was either at work or at church every day of his life.
Was he from your dad's side or mom's side?
He was my dad's dad, and
Really?
that was one of the things I never got. My uncle is like my grandfather, and my dad was this wild, rebellious James Dean type who wanted to do things his own way and butted heads with everybody along the way. And I never got that. You know, my grandfather was this great guy who everybody came to when they had problems because he would give you his opinion, and that carried a lot of weight with people.
Is your dad still alive today?
He is. He lives in my hometown of Brownwood, Texas.
Okay. Do you guys get along well today, or?
You know, for a period of time we got along a little bit better, but it's right back to not well. A lot of things I miss. He's missing a lot of his grandkids growing up, and I feel sorry for him for that, but it's a decision he's made and living the way he's living that I'm not going to put my kids through that.
Understand. Let's back up. You're junior college playing baseball, and then you get a shot at the pros. What happened?
Milwaukee Brewers drafted me in the first round of the supplemental draft in January in 1983. You got to get this right. I was just turned 19, so I was even smarter than I was when I was 18. They gave me $35,000 to chase my dream, and I thought, I've got it made. I'm getting paid. I'm rich. You know, $35,000 to me was more than I'd ever seen in my life. And I went to spring training thinking I will be a big league ball player. The only problem was that I was not grown up enough. And my first spring training, I was horrible. And I got invited to extended spring training, which is where you go when you don't make any of the teams in the organization. And it was very hard for me to take. I was the best athlete at my high school, and it took me a long time to realize that every kid there was the best athlete at their high school or college. And I wasn't mature enough to accept that. And when I got hurt, I knew more than the doctors did, so I did it my way, and I got hurt again. And I just wasn't ready to make those decisions at that point in time.
What kind of injuries did you incur?
I had Tommy John surgery. I tore medial collateral ligament. They pulled the ligament out of my ankle and stuck it in my arm and moved my ulnar nerve and started over again, throw in the mid-80s and then come back and throw a little bit harder. Then I had worked on my elbow so much that my shoulder broke down. And so then I had a shoulder surgery. And I just took everything to one extreme or the other and not listening to doctors along the way.
So you were in minor league ball, so you never got to the, as they say, the show, I guess, at that point.
No, I never got out of Class A ball.
Okay. So what did you do? Did you just kind of wash out there, or?
And you know, at 24, I made a decision. I went into Dr. Andrews' office. He was in Birmingham, Alabama. He's one of the best orthopedic surgeons in the country. And he said, what do you want to do with your life? And I'd never give anything any opportunity or thought other than playing baseball. And I said, you know what, I need to grow up. I need to go home, figure out what I'm going to do with my life, get a degree plan, decide what it is I want to do, meet somebody, eventually get married, start a family, buy a house, get a dog, grow up. And he said, that is a great plan, start with a dog. So after I bought a dog, I went to college, and I found out some very important things about college that you understand much better at 24 than you do when you're 18. If you have to pay for it yourself, you become smart. That's your money you're spending. So I learned I liked school, and I learned I wasn't stupid like I'd been told my whole life. And I learned that education left a lot more opportunity for me to do anything I wanted to than baseball ever would. And so I was fine with shutting the door on that dream for a while. And eventually through my college degree process, I thought, if I can't play the game I love, maybe I can teach it. And that's what I started working towards.
And where did you end up?
All over the state of Texas, and all my teams won their district championships. We got into playoffs. I was hooked to the classroom. I taught science, and that was a lot of fun. Ended up at Reagan County High School in Big Lake, where the movie takes place. And the first season there, I had 8 kids show up for my baseball team. They said, "Coach, we don't even know why you took this job. We're horrible. We've only won 1 game each year for the 3 years before you got here. People come through this town on their way to somewhere else." And in the back of my head, I had this saying going. When I'd driven through Big Lake, Texas on the way to my first spring training in Phoenix, as I drove through there, I thought, who would live here? And I found out that God, through his infinite sense of humor, decided that I would 20 years later, because that's where I ended up.
So how did you turn that team around?
You know, the first thing they had to learn in that town was they had to learn how to respect themselves. And pretty much everything I learned from my grandfather came back, and I was able to utilize as a tool teaching these kids. Pull their pants up, turn their hats around, take their jewelry off. You got to be able to respect yourself. I said, if you ever want somebody else's respect and you don't respect yourself, they're not going to respect you. I taught them how to open doors for teachers, say yes ma'am and no ma'am, turn their homework in. And we didn't learn a lot about baseball that first year, but those 8 kids turned into 63 kids the second year. And they liked the way I did things, and those kids wanted to play baseball for me.
So at some point you tossed them a couple of balls and they go, hey, you're not half bad, huh?
It was pretty amazing. You know, the start of 1999, the kids couldn't hit me at all. And we made this little bet that if they won a district championship, which they had never done, I had to go find a tryout somewhere. In the back of my mind, all I was thinking was, you're going to be embarrassed. This is horrible. You weigh 250 pounds. You look like a scout, not a baseball player. This is ridiculous. And by the end of the season, these kids were ripping me all over the park. And I thought, now they've won. I've got to go try out. And I can't even get high school kids out. What am I going to do? Mm-hmm. I go to the tryout and find out I'm throwing 98. And then this thing crosses my mind. I'm throwing 98 at high school kids, and they're hitting it. They're pretty good. Yeah. And so from there on, I thought, that's all right. Everybody's a little bit better for that.
Did any of the players of that team go on to Major League?
You know, they didn't. But one of the things I found fascinating, one of my kids, my third baseman, went to the Coast Guard Academy. He flies helicopters out of Houston, out in the Gulf, and saves people.
Right. And
I told Matt one day, I said, man, I sure would like to ride on your helicopter. He said, Coach, just go get a boat and go turn it over in the bay and we'll come get you. No, sir, that's not how I want to ride in a helicopter.
You went for the tryout, and that was the tryouts, and that was for the Tampa Bay team, right? And where were the tryouts being held?
In my hometown of Brownwood at Howard Payne University.
Okay. And so you just show up and say, I want to try out? Is that basically what happened?
That's basically what happened. First 60 or 70 kids got to try out. I show up with my kids who are 8, 4, and 1 at the time. Doug Gasaway's a scout for Tampa. He's about 65. And the kid in front of me signs up, walks off, and Gasaway looked up at me and said, how many kids you bring to the tryout? And I looked down at my 3 kids, and I said, well, I brought 3. And he said, no, 2 try out. And I said, well, I made a promise to a group of kids. I said, I need to throw. It's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be humiliating. But if you'll let me throw, I can go back and tell my kids that I did what I promised I would do, and the least it'll happen for you is you'll get a good laugh out of it. And he agreed to allow me to throw.
Did you really walk out there in blue jeans when everybody else was in their baseball uniform?
That was kind of a dentist thing. I actually had on softball pants that my gut was hanging over at the time. And I thought, this is ridiculous. So we had dentists look pretty good for that part.
Okay. So you throw. So you're throwing almost 100 miles an hour, and they all of a sudden step up and take notice, huh?
Yeah, it was amazing when I got done. A scout came up to me and goes, the first pitch you threw without warming up was 94. Everything after that went up to 98, and I was stunned. I thought, these kids are killing me at the ballpark, and you tell me I'm throwing 98 every pitch? And I just thought, that's not happening. He goes, I got to call it in. They're going to think I'm crazy, but if I don't call in a left-hander, no matter how old you are that throws 98, I'll get fired. And I thought, wow, I didn't embarrass myself. He said, don't be surprised if you get a phone call. And one phone call was 12 by the time I got an hour and 15 minutes home.
Wow. And so then at that point, they send you off to a minor league team?
They wanted me to come back and try it again 2 days later to see if I could throw that harder if my arm would fall off. And 2 days later in the pouring rain, they let me try it again. I threw 97 every pitch.
Wow. And so then you're off on one of the minor league teams.
I am. They actually sent me to St. Petersburg where they have rehab camp. Apparently they sent me there to lose my coaching diet. because in 3 weeks I lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
And then they sent me to meet their AA team on the road in Zebulon, North Carolina.
Okay. And so things go pretty well. Tell us the story of the minor leagues.
You know, in Zebulon, the first night there, our kid's getting lit up pretty good. He's getting hit all over the park. And one of the guys in the stands looks at me and goes, "Hey, coach, who are you putting in next?" Well, I'm not the coach, but as a matter of fact, the coach put me in next. And I go in and I throw 91, 92 miles an hour, and I get a guy out and get a double play. And they're like, "He's not that bad for an old guy. He's pretty good." The second night there, I throw 98 and 99 and strike out 5 people in 2 innings, and then everybody wanted to know about me. And these kids were awesome. You know, one thing I love about baseball is if you can do the job you're there to do, it doesn't matter how young or old you are, as long as you do that job. And so they accepted me.
And at what stage in the game, how long was it before you got called to the big team?
2 days later, I went to AAA and played for the Durham Bulls for 8 weeks.
Okay.
And after that amount of time in AAA, I got called up to the big leagues in September.
So the coach comes in and says, "We're sending you up."
Yeah.
And what went through your mind?
I thought because of a group of high school kids, I tried this again. You know, a dream that I thought had gone away a long time ago, in which the doctor said, "You'll never pitch again, you have nothing in your arm, it's physically impossible." And because of a group of high school kids, here I am achieving it. I pushed them and they pushed back.
And the first game you were in was?
The ballpark in Arlington against the Rangers in my home state.
And what was that like? Tell us what was going through your mind.
A lot of things. When we get there, it's in my favorite ballpark. It's in Texas. I've not seen my kids in 3 months. Never been away from my kids like that. My family's there. Johnny Oates, the manager for the Rangers, lets 150 people in the game that day that had ties to me.
Wow.
There were people that were in my family. There were friends there. There were people I went to college with. People who said they went to high school with me showed up. I have no idea who they were. But it was just amazing walking out on the field, and I've got school-age kids wanting to shake my hand because they'd see me on their education channel at school. That's the coach that made a promise and lived up to it. And I've got 80-year-old men crying and hugging me going, "You did this for us too." And it meant a whole lot to me at that point.
So when they called you and they said, "You're in the game," what was just comes rushing over you, I'm sure. Just,
you know, I would like to be stoic and go, "I handle it with grace," but I was petrified.
I can imagine.
And I'm standing on the mound talking to Larry Rothschild, our manager, and John Flaherty, our catcher. There's 45,000 people in the stands. Royce Clayton is an all-star that year. He's up. Tom Gooman's the runner at first for Texas. And I'm like, I am here. What am I going to do? And I came up with 2 things. Don't throw the ball in the backstop and don't hit Royce and start a brawl. Other than that, we can handle anything. And, you know, fortunately, I did not. And I struck out Royce. And it was one of the better times of my life because everybody I know and love got to see that moment.
So once you struck him out, did you just kind of get into your zone at that point?
I did, but I was done. That's all they brought me in for.
Okay.
And for the last inning of the game, I sat there and I watched our next guy come in, and I just smelled the smells of the baseball field, and I looked at the colors and listened to the sounds and saw everything going on from a spectator point of view, knowing that I had just been out there doing that same thing. And that was an amazing trip for me.
I can imagine. How many years did you play in the major leagues?
I played 2 years. I came back for a 3rd year, but there were some things going on at home. A divorce and other things that my son, who is now 10, had seen too much of. And he called me when I was in Vero Beach with the Dodgers and asked me how long I was going to be gone. And an hour later, I was in Jim Tracy's office. And I said, "I appreciate the opportunity, but I got to go home." And Jim Tracy got up, walked around the desk. He hugged me. He goes, "You're one of the best people I've ever met. You call me if you ever need anything." And after that, I was gone.
And what sort of career did you start then?
We went straight to I went home and got my kids, and we went straight to the production set and started filming The Rookie.
Oh, okay. So the deal had already been done that they were going to do the movie
You
at
bet.
that point in time. What are you doing these days?
Travel the world speaking to people, motivation, talking about second chances and just certain things that my grandfather has brought up in my life that I am able to go out and teach now, things that we've kind of lost with our culture nowadays, how to have integrity and character and how to carry yourself through situations, and if you mess up, actually take the blame yourself for messing up and move on from that, because once you do that, it's easier to repair than if you keep denying. And letting audiences know all over the world that we all make mistakes, we're all human. Just recover from it, admit it, and move on.
Why do you think that our society has gotten so, let's blame somebody else for my problems and make a excuse for this and that? And it's not just people who are unsuccessful. Talking about the sports world, look at all these sports figures who it's always the coach's fault or this person's fault or the quarterback's fault. Why is that?
I think from a young age, people have learned in the last 2 decades that they've never been told no. They've always been told they could do whatever they want to, they could be whatever they want to, you're the best person that's ever lived. And I also think that on the other side of that, everything rolls downhill. So you're watching other people not take the blame for things that they do wrong. And you've got these young kids watching that. Everybody's a role model that's older than a kid because they watch everything and they see everything. And you've also got this young kid who's never been told no. And that kind of diverges on that kid, and they don't know what failure is. They don't know where to go from there. It's a travesty because we have no idea how to take blame for something we've done and move on. Well, it's their fault. It's the teacher's fault. I don't know what, my kid came home with this one day. My teacher doesn't like white people. I'm like, what? She's African American. She's got a doctorate. She doesn't like white people. I said, what are you talking about? Well, she just doesn't like me. And I said, well, what is the problem? I said, I'm sure she didn't get into high school so she could just sit there and go, you're white, I think I'll just take care of you now.
Right.
The teacher is one of the best teachers I've ever seen in my life. My son ended up making an A. He just quit taking everything for granted, quit blaming somebody else and took the blame himself and moved on. And that teacher is one of the best people that's ever come across his life. He's in college, making straight A's in college through English now because of this one teacher. And they can make an impact. When you quit blaming people and you start accepting what they can do for you, you can move a lot further.
How do we do a better job of communicating that to our society?
You got to have somebody that'll step out that's actually made mistakes, I believe, and step up and go, I made this mistake and I'm going to move on. And until we can do that, we're not going to go anywhere. As long as we play the blame game, we're going to just keep faltering as a society. Nobody wants to take the blame for anything. Our country is in shambles right now, and we're still pushing the blame off on other people. Well, this company did that, this company did that. Well, you know what? If I'm broke, I made myself broke, and that's what happened. I've got to move on from there, and I've got to fix myself before I can fix anybody else. And I think you got so many people trying to fix other problems other than themselves. We can't take care of anything.
Give us a couple of bullet points in your opinion. How, if you're somebody out there watching and so many people right now are struggling because of this economy, maybe they've gotten themselves in a mess. How do you start to rebuild?
You just got to make a game plan. You know, that's one of the business books I'm writing right now for corporations next year. Make a game plan for success, and you've got to make a plan on what it is you want to do and where it is you want to be in a certain amount of time. And you have this checklist. How is your family? How important are your kids? What kind of job do you want to hold? Where do you see yourself now? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What can you correct? And then you grade yourself on all these things. And it goes from extremely good to horrible. And toxic is the word I use in the book. And the toxic stuff is what we need to get rid of to make ourselves better. But we need to take it and look at everything we've done in our lives and figure out a better plan. Because if we're making a mistake and we're still floundering, there's something that we can correct and we need to move on. And it comes with turning off all the voices on the outside. One of the things I talk about in my speeches all the time, you have to listen to that internal voice. You can't listen to other people telling you can or you cannot get something done. It has to come from within. And if it doesn't, you're going to go nowhere, positive or negative. You know, one of the biggest things I heard in the big leagues that bothered me tremendously was having guys who are on TV all the time go, I'm not a role model. I'm not signing autographs. I'm not a role model. I don't care about anybody. Well, these guys are role models, one, because they're on TV, they're in front of people. Every night they're in front of thousands of people on a field. They're on the radio, they're in the newspapers. Good or bad, you're a role model. Step up and take it for what it is and be a positive role model. Don't be running all over the place doing whatever it is you want to make yourself happy and then letting yourself get caught in situations you shouldn't be in. Take responsibility.
How do you stay motivated?
You stay motivated by creating dreams. I've had people from all over the world send me letters and emails talking about, we went back to school. We spend more time with our kids now because that's important. Our kids are going to be our future. They're going to have to fix everything that we've messed up. I gone back to school to learn the job I really want to do when I got out of high school, and now I'm doing what I really want to do. I quit doing the job that made all the money, and I'm spending time with the things I really want to spend time with. We put so much value on money that we think that's the end all, and really that's the problem. Money creates havoc in everybody's lives, and whether it's too much or too little, we focus on that one thing so much that we lose sight of everything else going on.
I've heard people who've been very successful in their career say, if you'll focus on your passion, the money will come. Do you buy into that?
Absolutely. I think if you focus on your passion, everything will come easier. Because if you have the rest of your life set up straight, you have nowhere to go but straight forward. If you have to always fixing things off to the side because your wheels are coming off, you're not going to be able to focus on anything except how down and out you are.
Now you're writing some books these days. Tell me about those.
You know, there's a kid's book that I'm writing right now, and I don't know if the title's going to be "Remember Who You Are," maybe "The Little Rookie," something like that. But it talks a lot about my grandfather and the things he taught me, and it's going to have a couple of characters in it, and I don't want to give away too much, but it talks about having character and integrity and making the right decisions. And one of the things that my grandfather taught me that I carry with me to this day is it doesn't matter what color you are, what job it is, what sex you are. None of that matters. Everybody's a human being and everybody needs to be treated the same, and nobody is better than the other person. It doesn't matter if you're a ditch digger or you're the President of the United States. We're all the same. We're all human. And it's going to be a lot circled around that and the things that we've lost through time with kids thinking that they deserve more opportunity. My parents make more money. We live in a better house. None of that makes a difference. It's what's inside of you that matters, and we need to get our kids to start thinking like that again.
You also do stuff for businesses. What's the main theme? What would you tell a business owner out there who's struggling because of this economy?
Keep your head up and make a better game plan. And don't do anything that you're going to jump ship off of right away. You don't want a fire sale going off before you ever get started, and you don't want to weather the storm as long as you can, because right when you give up, the next day something may turn around and there you are, you've given up and it's too late. You've got to stick with it. The economy turns and it goes, and nobody knows what's going to go on in this country until it actually happens.
Right.
And if you give up on that passion or that dream right now and something changes tomorrow, you're going to look back and then go, well, what if I'd have stayed one more day?
Right.
One more day. We're not looking 10 years from now. We're looking to tomorrow. You make those small increments, and then as you get better, you start moving them out a little bit further. But we can't control anything. And that is our big problem in this country. We think we control everything. We have control of nothing.
And of course, you're living proof with the patience of it working out, getting to play in the major leagues.
Patience or just not very bright. I'm not sure. But you know, at 35, a lot of people ask me, what was it like achieving that dream at 35? And I said, well, at 19, if I would achieve that dream, I would not have respected it like I did when I was 35. Because at 35, I knew what it was to go for a different dream and try to achieve other things in other places, and I knew what this dream of baseball meant to me. I was the first one there, the last one to leave, and I loved that chance of being a kid again because that meant the world to me, and it made me a better teacher for who I am by going through everything I'd gone through.
Jim, it's been a real pleasure with you visiting with us.
Thank you. Appreciate
the movie
it.
was absolutely fabulous. I totally recommend it. I mean, it's a great movie for the family. Get your kids and get some popcorn, sit down and enjoy it. It was a real pleasure to meet you.
Appreciate
Wish you
it.
the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.
Jim Morris, his life modeled after the movie, or actually the movie was modeled after his life. The movie was called The Rookie with Dennis Quaid. I thank you so very much for watching this edition of Conversations. Check us out on the web, WSRE.org/conversations. Take good care of yourself. We'll see you soon.